Some wounds do not bleed on the surface, yet they ache in the quiet places of the soul. We have all known the sharp sting of betrayal, the hush that falls after trust is broken, the moment when someone's words or actions try to shrink our spirit. And in that moment, the world often whispers one question into our ears: how do you get even? But tonight I invite you to lean closer to a deeper truth. Revenge is not found in matching cruelty with cruelty, nor in carrying anger like a second skin. The truest revenge is far more powerful, far more daring. It is the choice to rise when you were pushed down, to shine where you were dimmed, and to live so fully that the hands that tried to break you can no longer reach you. There comes a moment after hurt when anger demands to be fed. It asks you to replay the injury, to sharpen your words, to rehearse what you would say if you ever stood face to face with the one who wronged you. But listen closely. Anger is loud, yet it is never wise. It keeps you tied to the very pain you wish to escape. And so the first act of power is not reaction, but restraint. When you choose calm over chaos, you take back something priceless: control of your own spirit. Your peace is not weakness. It is not silence born of fear, nor surrender dressed up as grace. Your peace is a hard-earned victory. It is the moment you realize that no apology, no explanation, no act of regret from another person can give you what you have already reclaimed within yourself. While they may still be explaining, defending, or denying, you are breathing freely again. That freedom is not loud, but it is undefeated. People often believe revenge must be visible to be real. They think it must wound, embarrass, or humble the one who caused the pain. But true revenge does not ask for witnesses. It happens quietly, when you wake up one day and the hurt no longer greets you before the sun does. It happens when your laughter returns without permission, when your dreams grow larger than your scars, and when your heart learns how to trust itself again. There is a special strength in refusing to become what hurt you. When someone treats you with cruelty, the world expects bitterness in return. But when you answer with growth, with dignity, with an unshaken sense of self, you break a cycle older than memory. You declare, without saying a word, that your soul is not a mirror for their brokenness. You are not here to echo pain. You are here to transform it. Let them keep their excuses, their half-truths, their delayed remorse. You do not need it to move forward. The most unsettling thing to someone who once had power over you is discovering they no longer do. When your joy is no longer dependent on their regret, when your worth no longer waits for their validation, you have already won a battle they may not even realize is over. And so live well, not as a performance, but as a promise to yourself. Love deeply, not recklessly, but honestly. Stand tall, not in defiance, but in truth. Build a life so rooted in peace that even the memory of what hurt you cannot shake it. This is the revenge that leaves no blood on your hands and no weight on your heart. This is the revenge that sets you free. There is a quiet power in grace that cruelty can never understand. When someone expects your anger, your collapse, your loud demand for justice, and instead meets your calm becoming, something inside them is unsettled. Grace does not mean you were untouched by pain. It means pain did not get permission to rule you. It means you chose to stand upright in a storm that tried to bend you into bitterness, and that choice alone rewrites the story they thought they authored. Rising with grace is not pretending the hurt did not happen. It is acknowledging the wound without letting it rot your spirit. It is learning how to carry wisdom instead of resentment, strength instead of rage. Anger burns fast and bright, but it leaves ashes behind. Grace, however, builds. It builds character, clarity, and a kind of confidence that does not need to announce itself. When you rise with grace, you deny cruelty its favorite reward, your undoing. Those who hurt others often expect to live rent-free in your emotions. They anticipate your reaction, your obsession, your need to be seen by them as wounded. But when you rise, when you continue to love life, to grow, to speak kindly, to dream boldly, you remove yourself from their reach. You are no longer responding. You are responding to yourself. And that silence, that distance, that wholeness speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. Grace teaches you that you do not have to prove your pain to justify your healing. You do not have to explain why you moved on, why you stopped waiting, why you refused to shrink. Your growth is explanation enough. While cruelty depends on control, grace depends on freedom. And freedom, once claimed, cannot be negotiated away by anyone who once tried to break you. There is dignity in choosing not to become sharp just because someone cut you. There is courage in staying soft in a world that mistakes hardness for strength. When you rise with grace, you show that your values are not situational. You show that even in loss, you know who you are. And that certainty becomes a mirror others are forced to face, whether they are ready or not. Let them remember you not for your anger, but for your elevation. Let them wonder how you walked away lighter instead of heavier, calmer instead of colder. Let your life become the answer to the harm they caused, because the greatest shame to cruelty is discovering it failed. It did not turn you bitter. It did not stop your becoming. It did not steal your future. So rise, slowly if you must, quietly if you choose, but rise with grace. Let your healing be intentional, your joy be honest, and your peace be protected. This is not weakness, this is mastery. This is how you win without wounding yourself. This is how you turn pain into power and walk forward without dragging the past behind you. Wholeness does not arrive all at once. It comes in quiet decisions made every day. It is choosing not to rehearse the pain before sleeping, choosing not to let old words become today's truth, choosing not to measure your worth by the damage someone left behind. Bitterness tries to convince you that staying angry keeps you protected, but in truth, it keeps you imprisoned. Wholeness opens the door. It allows you to step into a life where the hurt is acknowledged, but it is no longer in charge. When you become whole, you stop introducing yourself through your wounds. You are no longer the one who was betrayed, the one who was abandoned, or the one who was wronged. You become simply yourself, layered, complex, growing. The harm may be part of your history, but it is not your identity. And the moment you stop letting pain define you, the people who caused it lose the power they once held over your story. There is deep strength in reaching a place where their actions no longer explain your emotions. You laugh without guilt. You love without suspicion. You trust your instincts again. This does not mean you forgot what happened. It means you learned from it without building a home inside it. Growth is not denial. It is refinement. It is taking the lesson and leaving the suffering behind. Wholeness teaches you boundaries that bitterness never could. You no longer need to prove anything, punish anyone, or win imaginary arguments in your mind. You know when to walk away, when to stay silent, and when to protect your energy without apology. This kind of self-respect is unsettling to those who once thrived on your reactions. They expected collapse. They did not expect clarity. Becoming whole also means forgiving yourself for what you didn't know then. You stop blaming yourself for trusting, for hoping, for loving with an open heart. You understand that your softness was never the problem. The world needs people who feel deeply, who care boldly, who believe in goodness, even when it costs them. Wholeness allows you to keep that softness without letting it be exploited again. And slowly, something shifts. The memory of what hurt you no longer tightens your chest. It becomes quieter, smaller, less important than the life unfolding in front of you. Your days fill with purpose, your nights with peace. You begin to realize that the best revenge was never about them watching you succeed. It was about you finally being free. So let your wholeness be your answer. Let your healing speak where explanations once lived. Let your life expand beyond the borders of that pain. This is not about showing anyone anything. This is about reclaiming yourself so fully that nothing they did can follow you into the future. That is not bitterness, that is victory. Success that grows from self-respect has a steady heartbeat. It does not rush to prove anything, nor does it look over its shoulder to see who is watching. It rises quietly, built on choices that honor your values even when no one applauds. This kind of success is not fueled by anger or the desire to be seen winning over someone else. It is fueled by the simple, powerful decision to treat yourself as worthy of effort, patience, and integrity. Revenge rooted in rage burns fast and fades just as quickly. It demands constant attention, constant comparison, constant validation. It asks you to keep your eyes fixed on the people who hurt you, measuring your life against their reactions. But self-respect turns your gaze inward. It asks better questions. Are you proud of how you are living? Are you aligned with who you want to become? Are your actions building a future you can stand inside with peace? When success is born from self-respect, it does not need to announce itself. It shows up in the way you refuse to compromise your dignity for approval. It shows up in the discipline to keep going when quitting would be easier, and in the courage to walk away when staying would cost you your soul. This success is patient. It understands that true growth takes time, and that anything built to impress others will eventually collapse under its own weight. There is something deeply unsettling to those who once hurt you when they see you thriving without bitterness. Not louder, not harder, not crueler, but calmer, clearer, and more grounded. They may expect your success to look like payback, but instead, it looks like peace. It looks like confidence without arrogance, strength without hostility, joy without explanation. And that is something rage can never replicate. Self-respect teaches you that you do not have to sacrifice your humanity to achieve your goals. You can rise without stepping on others. You can succeed without becoming hardened. You can be powerful and still be kind. In a world that often rewards cruelty disguised as confidence, choosing self-respect becomes a radical act. It says you will not let pain dictate your principles. As your life expands, you begin to see that the sweetest victories are not public. They are private moments of alignment, waking up without heaviness, making decisions without fear, trusting yourself again. These moments do not fade when anger cools. They stay, they grow, they sustain you long after the memory of the hurt has lost its sharp edges. And so let your success be slow if it must be, but let it be clean. Let it be rooted in who you are, not what was done to you. Build a life that feels honest when you stand alone with it, because revenge may satisfy for a moment, but self-respect builds something that lasts. And what lasts will always outlive what was born from rage. Growth is a quiet departure from the place where pain once ruled you. At first, the wound feels like a permanent address, a place your thoughts keep returning to uninvited. Every memory passes through it, every decision bends around it. But growth begins the moment you choose not to live there anymore. You may still visit the memory, but it no longer owns you. And in that distance, something powerful happens. The wound starts to shrink. When you grow beyond the wound, you stop asking the past for permission to move forward. You no longer wait for understanding, closure, or fairness before allowing yourself to feel joy. You realize that healing is not an agreement between you and the person who hurt you. It is a commitment you make to yourself. With every step forward, the wound loses its voice. It may still exist, but it no longer commands your direction. There is a freedom that comes when pain stops being your teacher and becomes simply a lesson already learned. You carry the wisdom without carrying the weight. What once made you question your worth now sharpens your clarity. What once made you smaller now makes you more intentional. Growth does not erase what happened. It transforms it into something that serves you instead of sabotaging you. As you grow, your reactions change. Things that once triggered storms inside you now pass through like clouds, not because you are numb, but because you are grounded. You know who you are now. You know what you deserve. And that knowing creates a distance no insult, no memory, no betrayal can cross. The wound loses power when it no longer controls your emotions, your choices, or your sense of self. There is also a tenderness in growth. You begin to treat yourself with compassion instead of judgment. You understand why you stayed, why you trusted, why you hoped. You stop shaming your past self for surviving the best way they knew how. This self-compassion is not softness. It is strength refined, and it seals the wound in a way anger never could. People who hurt you often expect to live forever in your mind. They assume their actions carved a permanent space in your life, but growth proves them wrong. It shows that pain does not have the final word, evolution does. When you stop centering your story around the harm becomes background noise in a life filled with purpose, connection, and peace. One day you realize something startling. You are no longer trying to prove that you were hurt. You are no longer trying to prove that you survived. You are simply living. And that is when the wound fully loses its power, not because it disappeared, but because it no longer matters more than the life you are building. So grow. Grow in awareness, in boundaries, in love for yourself. Grow until the past can no longer reach you. Grow until your present feels spacious and your future feels inviting. This is the kind of revenge that does not destroy, it liberates. When you grow beyond the wound, you reclaim your power, and the pain is left with nothing to hold on to. Choosing joy after hurt is a quiet rebellion because the world expects your pain to make you smaller. It expects your smile to dim, your hope to soften, your laughter to come with conditions. Hurt assumes authority over your happiness, as if suffering has earned the right to decide how brightly you live. But joy rises anyway, unannounced and unashamed, refusing to ask permission from what tried to break you. This joy is not careless. It is not denial wrapped in false positivity. It is a deliberate choice made with full awareness of what you endured. It knows the nights you cried, the questions that went unanswered, the trust that cracked in your hands, and still it stands. Choosing joy after hurt means you refuse to let pain become the loudest voice in your life. You acknowledge it, but you do not crown it. There is bravery in laughing again when you once thought laughter had abandoned you. There is courage in enjoying small moments without guilt, without explaining why you are allowed to feel good again. Joy after hurt does not erase memory, it reclaims the present. It says, what happened to me matters, but it does not get to decide everything that comes next. This kind of joy unsettles those who expected your bitterness. They imagined you would stay defined by the wound, shaped by the damage, forever cautious and closed. But joy opens windows where walls were expected. It softens where hardness was predicted. It is rebellion because it does not perform suffering for validation. It lives fully, even when no one understands how you manage to rise. Choosing joy is also choosing yourself. It means you stop postponing happiness until justice feels complete or apologies arrive on time. You realize that waiting for others to make things right keeps your life on hold. Joy steps in when waiting ends. It restores movement, color, and possibility to a life that pain tried to freeze. This joy is quiet, but it is persistent. It shows up in morning light that feels gentle again, in music that reaches you differently, in peace that stays longer than it used to. It teaches you that happiness does not need perfection, it needs permission. And once you give yourself that permission, joy grows roots no one else can pull out. There will be days when choosing joy feels like work, days when the past whispers too loudly, when memories tug at your calm. But even then, joy does not demand constant celebration. Sometimes it looks like rest, sometimes it looks like boundaries, sometimes it looks like saying no without guilt and yes without fear. This too is joy in its mature form. And slowly, something remarkable happens. Joy stops feeling rebellious and starts feeling natural. It becomes your language again. You no longer choose it out of defiance, but out of alignment. You realize that joy was never something pain could steal. It was something you temporarily forgot how to claim. So choose joy again and again, not to prove anything, not to impress anyone, but to honor the life still beating inside you. Let your happiness be evidence that hurt did not win. Let your joy stand as a soft, unmovable truth. You survived, you healed, and you refused to disappear. Transformation does not arrive with an announcement. It enters quietly, changing the way you think before it changes the way you live. One day you realize you no longer react the same way. The words that once cut deeply now pass through without lodging in your chest. The memories that once demanded your attention now sit calmly in the background. This is how transformation begins, not with drama, but with distance. When you transform, you stop trying to correct the past. You no longer waste your breath explaining yourself to people who never intended to understand you. Instead, you invest that energy into becoming someone you respect. And that shift is powerful. It means the people who expected your pain to be permanent are met with a version of you they cannot access, control, or diminish. Your transformation is unexpected because it is not fueled by revenge. It is fueled by awareness. You learn what you will no longer tolerate. You learn how to listen to yourself without apology. You learn that peace is not something you earn from others. It is something you protect within yourself. This kind of growth confuses those who thought your story ended at the wound. There is strength in changing without bitterness, in evolving without becoming cold, in healing without turning your heart into armor. When you transform this way, you prove something quietly profound, that harm does not get to shape your character. You decide who you become, not the people who tried to break you. Transformation also teaches patience. You stop rushing to show results. You stop needing validation. You understand that the most meaningful changes are internal, and they reveal themselves naturally over time. Your calm becomes noticeable. Your confidence becomes steady. Your boundaries become firm but gentle. And suddenly, the absence of chaos in your life becomes the loudest statement you make. Those who hurt you may never receive an explanation. They may never hear your side of the story, but they will feel the shift. They will sense that you have moved on in a way that does not include them. And that realization, that you are no longer available to the past, is often the answer they never expected. Transformation is not about showing them what they lost. It is about showing yourself what you gained: clarity, strength, self-trust, a deeper connection to who you are. You stop shrinking to be understood and stop bending to be accepted. You stand fully in your truth, and that alone rewrites everything. As you transform, your life begins to reflect your healing. Your choices align with your values. Your relationships feel safer. Your days feel lighter, not because nothing ever hurt you, but because you refuse to stay the same after it did. This is growth with purpose, so let your transformation speak. Let it answer questions you no longer feel the need to ask. Let it stand as proof that pain did not pause your becoming. You are not the person they wounded. You are the person who rose. And that becoming, quiet and complete, is the most powerful response you could ever give. Living well is a quiet defiance against the pain that once tried to define you. It is the deliberate choice to cultivate a life that nourishes your soul rather than feeds your wounds. Living well does not require you to boast or prove yourself to anyone. It simply asks that you honor your own journey, your own needs, and your own potential. When you fill your days with intention, you deny the past the power to dictate the quality of your present. Every small act of care for yourself, every decision to pursue what brings meaning and joy, becomes a statement. Your life belongs to you, not to the hurt you once endured. Loving deeply is another kind of rebellion. It is not a careless surrender, but a conscious willingness to let your heart feel fully, to invest in relationships that uplift rather than diminish, and to refuse the bitterness that whispers you must protect yourself by building walls. When you love with courage, you reclaim the parts of yourself that were shadowed by betrayal or indifference. Loving deeply after being hurt is not naive, it is brave. It demonstrates that your capacity to connect, to empathize, and to create beauty in human bonds cannot be stolen, no matter how sharp someone's actions once were. Standing tall, then, becomes the visible manifestation of both living well and loving deeply. It is the posture of someone who has weathered storms without losing their essence. It is the calm confidence that comes from knowing your worth, your resilience, and your values. When you stand tall, you occupy space that cruelty cannot shrink. Your presence alone becomes a rebuke to anyone who tried to belittle you. They may have expected to see you bowed, quiet, or resentful, but instead they are met with the quiet authority of someone who refuses to be diminished. Standing tall is not prideful, it is an embodiment of self-respect. The beauty of this approach is that it requires no confrontation, no sharp words, no acts of retaliation. Your life itself becomes the answer to the harm done. Every moment of fulfillment, every relationship built on trust, every day spent in alignment with your purpose is a victory they cannot touch. And the most astonishing part is that this kind of power is subtle. It does not scream. It hums steadily in your joy, your growth, and your calm. The person who hurt you may never understand the magnitude of your response because it does not seek validation. It simply exists. Living well, loving deeply, and standing tall transforms your pain into proof of your resilience. It shows that the world cannot break what is rooted in self-respect. It demonstrates that revenge need not be cruel or loud, because the ultimate triumph lies in thriving beyond what once wounded you. When you commit to this life, this active, intentional, loving, upright life, you declare to yourself and to the world that no harm has the final word. And in that declaration, you discover a peace and a power that no act of cruelty could ever take away. Would you like me to continue expanding this into another 500 words, going even deeper into how living well, loving deeply, and standing tall becomes the ultimate form of empowerment?